Hello friends, Bendy here, and today we are going to be discussing why Fnaf is such a successful horror game. Now, before we get started, please like, subscribe, and enjoy the video. Now, let's get started. Five Nights at Freddy's is by far the most famous and greatest game that horror has ever produced, well, in my opinion. The reason behind this is due to the fan base, the games themselves, and the everlasting lore in Fnaf, but also how simple the Fnaf is as a brand. The only question is, why is that? What makes this game so successful that its own fan base is still trying to find answers to a story that started back in 2014? Well, it's quite so really. The reason is, well, due to the inspiration behind the story, but also the story that it tells and, well, how that story is still going on to this day. Another is quite surprising really is, well, the designs of the characters or the environment. The reason I say this is because if you go to every other horror game these days, most of the games are trying to make such horrific creatures or out-of-the-top detailed monsters. Fnaf, on the other hand, well, Scott really just went ahead and just made simple and easily recognizable robotic animals. If I told you to look at Freddy's design and then to look at the new creatures these new horror games are making, which one would you see first? Well, Freddy, of course. The reason behind this is because he is such a simple but yet scary character to look at, but super easy to remember, if you really think about that. Now, the lore. The lore is by far the most complicated story to try to understand. If you don't read the lore and you just go and just play the games themselves, you would probably be lost on what the story the games are trying to tell. And the story is about a man who killed 5 children and how the kids are just trapped in a never-ending labyrinth of blood and vengeance and are just fueled with the lust of rage on the man they were killed by, and are just so desperately trying just to be set free, and just trying to go ahead and just take him down for all the pain and suffering they've been in, and to make sure he does not do it to anyone else. But also how the killer will always try to go ahead and come back just to do his bidding. A never-ending cycle of blood and sorrow. Which, it's so sad and how the kids are, and if you read the lore, you would understand how dark the lore is. But I won't go in full detail on the lore due to how long and complicated the lore is. Long story short, the lore is a gruesome one, and it really should not be taken lightly. Another reason the series is such a successful series as well. It's the gameplay itself, the games. Unlike most horror games where you go ahead, you move around, you find objects or items to help you survive or to press on into the next level, the Fnaf plays with the tension and your mind that you are at risk at all times and you have to stay in one place to survive. That you must have a strategy to make it into the next night or you're done. It also gives you paranoia on trying to make it into the next night, but also to not make mistakes during the night. To give you a mindset that one mistake can lead to your death. And I should know because I spent hours and hours trying to beat both 420 mode in FNAF 1 and 5020 mode in Ultimate Custom Night. There were so many nights where I would spend practicing, yet the tension kept on getting to me every time because of the power going out or my flashlight would go out. But now, let's make comparisons to many horror games. Bending Unique Machine follows the same thing with FNAF, with the art style and the simplicity of the games, but also the simplicity of the characters and how the art style is different, which I love the art style of Bending Unique Machine personally. However, the gameplay itself is not scary, but also the game isn't really entirely scary. Just there are a few spooks every now and then, but entirely Bending Unique Machine is just a survival game. A survival quote-unquote horror game. but I think that's what created the spark and why Vending Machine is good. But if you compare it to Poppy Playtime, yeah, hands down, Vending Machine has no chance to how scary that Poppy Playtime is. Poppy Playtime, it follows FNAF in so many ways, on how simple the characters look, how deep the lore goes, how the story is, and how different it is because of the story the setting is trying to tell. And how Poppy Playtime, Jesus, it's one of those games that actually allows you to understand on what the hell is going on in the story, which I never saw a horror game ever try and do that. But now, with Poppy Playtime, now I'm thinking about it, yeah, I think that's the only game I can kind of see it's trying to tell the lore. So, many should take note from these two games. FNAF, and another thing is, FNAF may not be as scary as most of the horror games these days, but the tension and the paranoia the game makes, the game is even more scary than it really should be. Just because of those two things. Another thing that makes FNAF so successful is both the audio or the sounds of the game. The ambience of the game it's another that builds the tension in the game. The dumb noises that randomly play at the middle of nowhere during the night, it builds so much fear you would want to quit the game. Because think of the ambience, you just hear these, just think about that. Like, you're in the setting of FNAF, correct? And you just go ahead and you're just doing your night shift, you're checking the cameras, closing the doors when these animatronics come in. And then you just go ahead and just hear these random ass noises just playing in the night. And then you just hear that music, you just hear a music box just randomly play, like somewhere in the cams. Yeah, no, I'm good. The last thing that makes FNAF so good is the fan base. The fan games that FNAF gets are some, if not the best games I've ever played or seen that are like fan-based games. For example, FNAF Plus, The Joy in Creation, and Five Nights at Candy's. Those games are incredible, and I really recommend playing or watching those games, especially FNAF Plus, which is on the wishlist right on Steam at the moment. But yeah, which I cannot wait for the story to be played out for that game, because it is said that FNAF Plus is supposed to be harder than FNAF 1 it was supposed to be, but also supposed to be more scared than FNAF 1 itself, which I cannot wait to see that. And another thing I recommend from the fan base of FNAF are the FNAF V test tapes. Those tapes are so damn creepy. I feel like horror movies are like a joke compared to those videos. If you watch the FNAF tape, the Pirate Cove pre-show.
Oh, now I've got to prep my singing voice. La 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 la.
No, the chills you would get from watching it at the same time, the quality those tapes are, or how good the quality is for those tapes, it's amazing to see how one person is able to create such a fantastic story or video or tape it's going by. And not to mention the Pirate Cove pre-show, it's a remake of another person's story they already told, but the remake itself is so good. It's like the tension that it gives every time it switches between or it transitions into the next stage of the story it's trying to tell. It's incredible. And so please go ahead and watch it and watch the tapes themselves. You will not regret it. I mean that. Alright, that's all that for me for now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Now, I did not know what to do for this video, but I just wanted to discuss on why. Because this game, or FNAF, has always had a special place in my heart. because it was the first horror game I ever played before Resident Evil, because that was the second game, and then the third was Bending the Machine. But yeah, FNAF, as a kid, when growing up back in 2015, I was like, wow, why is this game so scary? I'm like, no. But yeah, FNAF is a game that I think surpasses every horror game I ever played or watched in my life. So let me know what's your favorite game in the comments below. Now, mine personally is FNAF 1. That game is so damn perfect. I think it was created by the gods of horror themselves. Now, if you got more videos like this, please go ahead and subscribe and like the video, so you guys will never miss a video like this. Now, I make edits every now and then, and next week on, I believe on Tuesday, I should be done with a new one, which I think you guys might like. Alright, I'll see you on the next one. Later.